You guys have a large family of 8.
And people ask all the time, well, how do you get your kids to do this?
If I can back up just a little bit in the story, why are we so sick and not feeling good, like perpetually? Our whole family would get sick. I had struggled 6 years ago with massive thyroid issues, and he's suffering. You know, he's still in bad shape.
Better if I just died, because I was in that much pain and I was completely useless.
We had no quality of life, and it affects everything in your life. So I'm standing in the pantry and I'm listening to your videos and I'm like, I could try this. I mean, we've tried everything else. We've literally, you name the diet, we have done it. Then I kept watching your channel and you're getting like healthier and healthier.
So that's when we started the carnivore diet. It was miraculous. Like, between the pain and everything, completely alleviated, just started feeling better.
How could you guys possibly do this with a family of 8?
What we found out was maybe you can't trust the science, and maybe what the prominent scientific philosophy when it comes to health and diet, maybe they're wrong.
Today's video is sponsored proudly by ButcherBox. They recently launched a new initiative where you can support your local USA American farmers. Support American farmers with this new US pasture-raised beef from ButcherBox. This is USDA choice meat. Look at this ribeye, it's absolutely fantastic. The cows are never in feedlots. They're pasture-raised, there's no antibiotics, no hormones. You're supporting a local American farmer. I get so many people asking me, how can I do that? Now you can do it with ButcherBox. There's more details, including a really special offer if you use the link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Now back to today's video.
Hello and welcome. Carrie here from Healing Humanity. I point to my shirt, but these two have the shirt on and I didn't wear it today. I'm thankful, grateful, and blessed to have my friend TD and Faith, the Texas boys, on the channel. And we'll have a link in the description for their YouTube channel. I highly encourage you to go check out what they're doing over there. You guys, we were just talking before this, you were on the 24-hour live stream, which I'm getting a little PTSD thinking back to that day. That was almost exactly a year ago. I can't believe that. I think
Time flies.
Yeah, man. And I heard a little bit about your story, and it was really interesting. Like, honestly, it was really fun talking to you both. And we had a whole bunch of doctors on, and you guys have a large family of 8, which is amazing and awesome. So I was hoping to dig into that a little bit. I have a family of 6 myself, but we did a live stream as well. And I just wanted to explore more and hear your stories some more. So maybe if we could start out, TD and Faith, could you tell us a little bit about yourselves, your family, where you're from, kind of stuff like that?
Yeah, you want me to start? So we um we got married, and I was always into health and fitness, and I was into nutrition, and I read a lot. So I would always be experimenting and tweaking my diet. And I grew up in a crunchy home, and my mom was way ahead of the curve, and she read all this stuff, even though, interestingly enough, later in life, she completely, relatively speaking, reverted to kind of like this standard American diet. Um, Faith grew up in a pre-packaged home where everything she ate came in a cellophane wrapper. Without, like, that's not hyperbolic. It
No.
was, everything was pre-made, pre-packaged. So when we got married, I was always into my food and stuff. So it kind of rubbed off on her. And she is a very studious researcher. So she's reading and doing all this stuff. And once we got some land, we had goats and we had a garden and we did all these things. And then about 10 years ago, we relocated from the Northeast to Texas. And we said, you know what? We're going to completely revolutionize our life. We're going to slow down. We're going to live a very intentional, much more simplified life. And we knew that we wanted to try to grow our own food and all these different things. And interestingly enough, we were mostly organic. And I'll let Faith tell a little bit about her story, but we were organic and everything, but we continued to have these health issues. And as I continued to get older and more tired, I'm just like, wow, I'm trying really hard here. I'm reading a lot. I'm taking hundreds of dollars of supplements, and maybe what it is they just haven't come out with the newest supplement yet. So I'll just keep trying more and more and more supplements. So I was doing that. And meanwhile, I had developed this chronic issue in my neck and back. And roughly like 7 or 8 years ago, I started getting tingling in pinky and my pinky and my what do they call this finger?
Your ring
My
finger.
ring finger. My ring. I kept wanting to say index finger, and I'm like, I know that's not right. And so I started having issues, and it would come and go. And then I started having like just permanent issues in my shoulder.
Yeah.
And super long story short, what happened is about 3 years ago, I got diagnosed with this arthritic condition in my shoulder, and it was what was creating all this neck and back problems. And lo and behold, because of this encapsulative arthritis in my left shoulder, I had developed an erosion of my labrum, and I lost about 30 to 40% of my labrum. And so I had so much scar tissue and buildup, like I had pretty much become incapacitated. And over that between 7 and 3 years ago, I almost became permanently disabled. And
Mhm.
and amazingly enough, when I was a teenager, I dealt with depression and different things, but I had never had an issue with that. But I did vocalize to my wife in private, like, you know what? It would be better if I was just dead. I have a gigantic amount of life insurance, and you all could go on and enjoy your life. I think it was about 2 years ago when we were supposed to do that road trip.
Mhm.
Yeah, we had planned this road trip.
Oh no, that was 2020.
Oh, that was 2020.
Mhm.
Oh, wow,
That
that
was
was 4 years ago.
4 years
Yeah,
ago.
so
Yeah.
we had planned this road trip, this family road trip, and we were going to go up north and visit a bunch of friends and family and all this stuff. And the morning of, I was so bad that I'm like, look, this sounds crazy, but I can't go. I was completely bedridden, and I couldn't get out of bed. And I'm like, there's no way that I'll be able to sit in a vehicle. And that was kind of like rock bottom for me, because my family left and they went on this 2 week road trip and they had fun. And here I'm home and I'm supposed to be watching the animals. And meanwhile, I'm in bed, and we had a predator that systematically, we had a large cat that systematically ate our sheep one a day while they were gone. And I'm just like, what in the world? I mean, here I am. I'm worthless. I'm stuck in bed. I can't even take care of these sheep outside. How am I going to, help my family? And I really did. I was just like, it would just be way better if I just died, because I was in that much pain and I was completely useless. And then right around, when did the thyroid thing happen? Maybe you could talk about the thyroid thing.
Yeah. Well, do you want to finish up your story a little bit, or?
Like bring it all the way
Yeah,
forward?
yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I go to four orthopedic doctors. They all said, well, you need a shoulder replacement, So I don't know what to tell you. You need a shoulder replacement. I'm like, well, I'm 46 years old or whatever, and I'm way too young to get a shoulder replacement, and it's way too barbaric, and I just want to wait. And they were like, well, then I don't know what to tell you. So then one orthopedic surgeon said, look, I keep looking at the x-rays. I think I can clean this up. I should be able to buy you like 10 more years.
Mhm.
So he goes in there to clean it up. And then like 3.5 hours later,
Mhm.
4 hours later, I wake up from surgery and he's like, just to let you know, that was the worst shoulder I've ever seen ever doing shoulders. And you have the shoulder of an 80-year-old man.
Mhm.
And he's like, so I'm sorry, but I can't do anything.
And you need a shoulder
And
replacement
you need a shoulder replacement.
like today.
Yeah. So, the only thing I got is for you is shoulder replacements. So then I said, well, it's, I'm not doing that. So then I started researching stem cell, and I went back to him and I said, hey, can't we do like stem cell therapy? I've been reading all this great stuff on stem cell treatments and all this stuff. And he was like, yeah. And he hands me a Pfizer brochure. And I'm reading this thing and I'm like, this ain't stem cells. I'm like, what is this? And all this stuff. So did a little more research and I found a super cutting edge guy in Dallas named Donnie Buford, Dallas Orthobiologics. And we go out there for a consult. Man, this guy is awesome.
He's also orthopedic surgeon.
Orthopedic surgeon. And he stopped doing orthopedic surgeries to do biological treatments like stem cells, PRP, and he's super cutting edge. So he looks at my stuff and he says, yeah, we can help you.
Well, he says, yeah, you look like you have the shoulder of an 89-year-old man that did like hard labor his whole entire life.
He thought I worked in a rock quarry my whole life, but
Yeah.
I said,
Wow.
fortunately I didn't. So I went through that amazing process of now, one thing that Donnie explained that a lot of people don't know about stem cells is people talk about these stem cells and the Pfizer brochures and these frozen stem cells and umbilical cord stem cells and all these things. And what people don't know is as soon as they freeze those stem cells, they die and they're worthless. So they're injecting nothing into you. Just it's money and it's expensive and it doesn't do anything. He said, so in order for it to work, we have to extract the bone marrow, preferably from your hip. We spin it in a centrifuge. We extract your stem cells out, and then we strategically inject them back into your shoulder, and we'll use a sonogram in strategic locations.
Like same day.
Same day, like
hour.
immediately.
Yeah.
And so we go through that. That's a very interesting process when they suck your bone marrow out. And then he injects it into my shoulder. And from where I had been to it was miraculous. Like between the pain and everything, completely alleviated. And just started feeling better. The joint felt better and all these different things.
The pain was better.
Yeah, the pain completely mitigated, went completely away. And then I started this process of a rehab and trying to put this range of motion back into my shoulder, but with a large portion of your labor missing, there's definitely a challenge because it's crunchy and clunky and all these terrible things. So that's when we started the carnivore diet.
Right. And if I can back up just a little bit in the story. So when he's saying he did not have pain after this stem cell treatment, so he had surgery, shoulder surgery, which they told him he needed a total shoulder replacement. They just weren't prepared to do that because that takes like custom measurements. And he didn't have all of that stuff ordered. Those parts were not on the table that day because he was just going in to do a cleanup and he didn't know it was going to be as bad as it was when he got in there. So he had that done and then he had the stem cells done. Well, then that was in November. In December that year, we went on a cruise and his pain was much better, but he still spent about 80% of the time, 90% of the time on the cruise in that room, laying down on the bed, not doing anything. So his gauge of the pain was better is like not probably like a normal gauge for normal people. And that was a really hard week because he was really upset that he was there physically, he was there, but he couldn't do anything. He was not able to do anything. And I just kept encouraging him, like, it's okay, but you're still here. You can still eat with us. You can still have breakfast with us. And, that's a cruise, is just eating anyway. And, but he couldn't do anything. He couldn't enjoy anything. He still had a significant amount of pain, even though it was way less than it had been. So then fast forward, that was December. So then we go to June of that year. We had these crazy friends that had gone carnivore. They did keto for 2 years and they saw some improvements, but they had some massive wake up calls with their health and like dire straits kind of situations with their health. And they're 10 years older than us. And we're in our 40s. And so they did carnivore for a year. And I was like, that's not good. Like, that's just not good. That's not gonna go well, you know? Like, I just was so skeptical because, you're supposed to, like, eat the rainbow and,
What
we're
about the fiber?
we're doing all
Right.
these foods and, we're like 99% plant-based, 95% plant-based most of our time, and, like, it just I mean, I was glad that they weren't eating, modern standard American food anymore. They weren't drinking Coke and all of that, but, I'm just kinda really skeptical. So anyway, that kept going on, and then I kept watching your channel, and you're getting, like, healthier and healthier, and I'm watching, like, your 30-day update and your different things, and I'm just because 'cause we're in the homesteading circles, right? And not knocking anybody in the homesteading circles, but there's probably less than a handful of people in the homesteading circles that are visibly, physically
Healthy.
healthy people just to look at. I don't know their personal medical information, but including us, we were in that
Yeah.
circle and you were in that circle. And I'm watching you and I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I didn't even know he was struggling with all those things. And I mean, obviously he was, but you're not really thinking about that because we're just all growing food and trying to be healthy, whatever that is, And so I'm standing in my pantry and all this is going on, and I'm watching your channel and I'm listening to my friends get healthier and healthier. And I'm like, well, I mean, and he's suffering still, he's still in bad shape. He's getting by, but barely. We had no quality of life, and it affects everything in your life, all of your relationships. You can't go anywhere, do anything. So, and backtrack to 2020, the wonderful year that 2020 was for everyone,
Right.
was that we also I don't know how this happened, but we started to get perpetually sick. Every 60 to 90 days, our whole family would get sick with some type of
Respiratory something or other.
respiratory fevers, the whole thing. I don't wanna get the video demonetized, but, like, we would get sick, and it was every 60 to 90 days, clockwork, since spring of 2020, and I would write it on the calendar because it became so trackable that we could do that, and every time it would wipe us out for about a month. The only way to get rid
The
of
whole
it
family.
the whole family,
Yeah,
the
it was great.
and we aren't sick people. We aren't doctor people. Like, that just was never, ever part of our life ever. And so this was all new and it was getting really old. Like, after 3 years of it, it was like really, really old. Like, you couldn't plan vacations. You couldn't do anything because we were going to be sick and we were going to be wiped out for a month. And some people were going to end up back at the doctor's on a Z pack. And it was just crazy. So, and we're eating all these whole foods and doing all of that, right? We were already gluten-free, dairy-free. We had done all that for 6 years.
Mm.
Very, very low sugar. We played with different types of sugar. We've done all honey. At times we did all maple syrup. We've done agave. We've done, different raw sugars like for baking, like coconut sugar, like the better sugars, we've done that kind of stuff. So pretty crunchy, and limited, like once or twice a week, we make something from scratch. We weren't buying prepackaged anything since our oldest son was born. He's 19. So,
And most of our beef we were buying from our neighbor
right,
who raised grass-fed longhorn,
right,
and that was the meat that we ate too.
right. So, but we weren't eating very much meat.
Right.
Quick interruption. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in learning more about our documentary, Healing Humanity, The Power of a Proper Human Diet, or supporting it, please visit donate.healinghumanity.movie. Our goal is to reach millions of people that are hopeless right now and sharing the examples of real people over the course of 1 year that are undertaking a proper human diet to overcome obesity, type 2 diabetes, depression, anxiety, fertility issues. We couldn't do it without you. We thank you so much. We are also selling these shirts, Healing Humanity, The Power of a Proper Human Diet. Every penny we get from those goes towards the documentary. And last, we have memberships. If you click the little join button, it's best to do it on desktop. Under any one of my YouTube videos, you can join and become a member. We have hundreds of members right now. We do members only videos. We do members only behind the scenes. You can email me as a member and I'll answer you. And every penny from that goes to support the documentary. And the last thing is we have these Redmonds portable salt shakers. These things are awesome. You can get the best salt. You can take it with you. We sell these on the website along with our water bottles and cutting boards, and every penny from all of those goes 100% towards supporting the documentary. You can also sign up for our newsletter, which is completely free. All of these links are in the description below. Thank you so much for your support. Now back to today's video.
And still with that. So it was still just your regular foods, like a regular plate, like myplate.gov. We probably had a pretty good one and, and like a little bit of meat on there, you know? And so, well, not now. It's probably has like trick cereal or something. I
Yeah,
haven't
right.
looked lately. But anyway, so I'm standing in the pantry and I'm listening to your videos and I'm hearing my friends and I'm like, well, you know what? And he's doing deplorable. And I'm like, I could try this. I mean, we've tried everything else. Like we've literally, you name the diet, we have done it over our past almost 25 years of being married. Like we've done paleo, we've done I don't even plant-based, we've done vegan, we've done 80-10-10, we've done I don't fruitarian. We did that for 2 years. Like direct opposite, yes, of what we're doing now. So we've just done so many different things, and I'm thinking, we could try it, and I know we won't die. I mean, we're not gonna die if we eat meat. I know that. In theory, I know that. So we started doing that, and for the first couple months, I still made a pot of green beans every night, and I brought them out to the table because we have tons of green beans in our pantry, and I wanted to, like, offer it to the kids or whoever wanted it, and after, like, I don't know, a few weeks, they were just like, "Yeah, mom." I was just heating up green beans, putting them on the table, and then putting them back away every time. I'm like and they're like, "Yeah, you can stop with the green beans.
I'm like, why do you keep
We're done with the green beans." I'm like, "Okay." So, we kept in some berries in the first few months. Some of our little kids still eat blueberries, so we can fast forward to like what the kids eat and stuff here later. But yeah, I had struggled with thyroid issues. My husband had thyroid issues all as a kid and growing up. He was on thyroid medication for his, and he was able to fix his thyroid through, I believe, Dr. Brownstein iodine regimen. And but I had struggled 6 years ago with massive thyroid issues, big goiters in my throat to the point that it was very, very huge and visible. And a few other YouTube families that Homestead had also, that we were close with, had gone through massive thyroid issues, like I'm talking like debilitating thyroid issues, like to the point that the husband couldn't work anymore, like these very, independent minded people just really brought to their knees with thyroid issues. And so I won't say who, I won't say names or anything, but anyway, there were some channels. And so it was very weird, and we were talking about it together and saying like, okay, we're all trying to do this healthy stuff, and like we're all getting sicker, like this doesn't make any sense. We have our own dairy cows, and we're doing our own milk and cheese and yogurt, and like this is an all consuming lifestyle. And why are we so sick and not feeling good, like perpetually?
And I blamed it on old age. I'm like, man, getting old just stinks. And I'm just like, wow, this is really how it is, huh? I mean, like, I'm not that old, and I thought 50 was the new 30 or whatever, but that wasn't the case for me.
Right. So we started, we kept some berries. We kept some blueberries and strawberries because I was super plant-based, and when I struggled with my thyroid stuff, and we ended up down at MD Anderson Hospital, which is one of the biggest cancer hospitals in America. And we really thought, and they really thought, we were there for 3 days of testing, that I was going to not have a good prognosis.
Well, the two doctors before we went there, the reason we were there is two doctors said that you had thyroid cancer and it needed to be cut out immediately.
Yeah. And it wasn't, there's like different types, and the one that I had was not going to be good. So anyway, we were there. God blessed us when we were there, and it was not cancer somehow. But so I just went all in even deeper back then. That was 6 years ago on
Yeah.
plant-based.
And then just to interject too. So doing different types of therapies like the Gerson therapy and everything. She did before we went there, we had a 30-day window. She got it to significantly shrink. So they do the biopsy, they say it's not cancerous. And then I said, okay, so what can we do? Well,
Right.
nothing. We can
Yeah.
cut it out. Like if you don't like it, we can cut it out. So we can cut it out. And I'm like, that's all you can do.
Right.
Yeah, that's
We're
all we
with
can do.
this whole team of doctors, and it's all
Super
supposed to
cutting
be
edge,
like this, all inclusive, like this innovative,
holistic approach. Yep.
approach. And I'm like, so is there, like, I have one big glitter on this side that everybody could see, it's gigantic, right? And then I have one on this side that I didn't even know about. And I'm like, so what can I do? Is there any kind of supplement, lifestyle change, food that I can eat or not eat? Like, tell me something that I can do. Nope, nothing. There's nothing.
Mm,
Just go home, and every 6 months we
Drink
want to
soda
we
and
want
be
to
comfortable.
see you again, and we'll keep looking at it every 6 months to make sure if it gets bad. But other than that, no. And I'm like, that makes
Hmm.
no sense at
Yeah.
all. Like, that's
right.
helping me, and yeah. So anyway, we came home, and so we were deep in the plant-based thing, is why I'm saying we kept the berries for a little while. And even my carnivore friend, um, I was drinking these green drinks every day for 6 years. I had this green powder that I would drink. And now looking back, it's so funny. But anyway, and I thought that I was doing the right thing, like the best thing, and I told my carnivore friend, I'm like, we're doing it, but like, I got to keep my green drink because, I just can't not drink this green drink. And she's like, keep it. That's fine. Keep it. That, you feel like that's good for you, just keep it. And I'm so glad, and even like the kids with the smoothies and stuff, I'm like, we're just going to keep the berry smoothies, with this vegan, like whole food scoop of protein powder, pea protein,
Pea
like so
protein.
bad, But anyway, but I'm like, it's all whole foods, it's all super good for you. She's like, yeah, keep it. Just keep it. Keep that and just keep doing it. And I'm so thankful for her because had she had said back then, like if she was really rigid and been like, oh, you can't do that, or that's totally worthless, that's silly. I think I would have gotten scared away from it because that was like my safety net. Like I needed that because to me, that's what got me through the cancer and all of that stuff
Mm.
was, I mean, of course, God, but, also just in case the food might have had something to do with it. I want to just keep drinking that green juice just in case. So little by little, we were able to get off of the smoothies and stop ordering the smoothie powder and the green juice. I finally got to the end of like my last jar of green powder and I'm like, okay, am I seriously going to order another thing of green powder? Like I'm learning too. At the same time, I'm just like listening to just, I don't know, thousands of hours, it seems like, of, Dr. Chafee and Dr. Barry and then just regular people like you and whoever. And I'm learning all these things. And I'm like, did you know broccoli, like it wasn't even a thing before? And then like now it's a thing. It wasn't even a vegetable. And, they made it. And, so I'm learning all these things, And so, yeah, I was able to let go of the green powder. But what happened almost instantaneously is within 2 weeks time, he was a different person, like
Mm.
becoming a different person overnight.
Yeah.
And he got down on the kitchen floor at about 2 weeks mark.
Yeah, it was at the 2-week mark. And I was like, I feel so good. I bet you I can do a push-up. And the whole family's there, right?
We're
And I used to
scared.
be a big meathead. Like I used to be real into exercising and all that stuff. And they're like, she's gonna break
Yeah,
himself.
we're like, you're
Don't
gonna
do it.
stop.
And
No.
the most amazing thing is like I didn't think that I could do it. I'm like, I bet you I could do a push-up,
Yeah,
right?
you're like, I feel so good. I could do a push-up. And we're like,
They're like, he's gonna hurt
no.
himself. Don't do it. And I get down the floor and I start doing push-ups and I do like 5 and I'm like, this is weird. And then I do like 10. I'm like,
And I'm
wow.
like, stop, don't do anymore.
And it was so surreal. And that was really kind of what started it for us,
Yeah.
and people ask all the time, like, well, how do you get your kids to do this? And I think what's very interesting and what is very encouraging about the videos is what we would do is one, we would talk about it as a family, and two, we would watch these videos together, because it really exclusively this is an educational thing.
Right,
you know
right.
um I was going to work the other morning very early, like 6:30, and it's raining, and I take this cut through to go to my office, and I go right by this McDonald's, and it's just bumper to bumper, right? It's just bumper to bumper, and there's all this talk and RFK Jr., and we're going to make this like a state of the emergency. We're gonna mandate that this is like a state of emergency and all this thing. And I'm like, you can do all this stuff, you can fund the junk out of it, you can throw billions of dollars at it, right? But if those people don't stop getting in that line
Mhm,
at the McDonald's to pick up their super processed whatever, like,
mhm.
you can spend all the money in the world, but it truly is. And I know the government approach, and we always talk about awareness and education, but it exclusively is an education. And well, I always encourage everybody, it's like, you can do anything for 2 weeks, try it for 2 weeks. And with our children, we'd watch these videos and we talk about them. And as we're implementing this, they're like, they can observe this is true.
Mhm.
Like, this
Mm.
is true. We took this out, we added this in, and look at the benefits, and then watch the benefits, and then that reinforces it to them. So it's building their own belief, for lack of a better word, really just an awareness that you can eat like this. It will positively impact you basically on every aspect of your life: mental clarity, strength, overall sense of well-being, just mental health, and all these things. And as we implement it and do it, they're watching it, because you could mandate it to your children and you could force it on them. But the reality is, especially when you have teenagers and whatever, they're going to do whatever they want. I mean, they got to make their own decisions, they got to live their own life. But if we can holistically learn together as a family
Right.
and we implement these things, hey, maybe our kids, they'll, as they get older, and they'll be like, nah, forget that stuff, we're going to do whatever.
Mhm.
But what's the self-correcting mechanism with this type of diet is that when you reintroduce this highly processed or the gluten or whatever it is, you feel so crummy. You're like, why did I do that? Like, do I just like to abuse myself? Like, now I feel terrible, or or, oh, my skin's all broken out now, or whatever. I mean, fill in the blank, whatever the anomaly is. And I think that is a critical um
Yeah,
aspect to getting the kids to buy in and be on board.
I think so. And it was our kids were already limited. Like we were already weird. Like we had
Yes.
been weird
We're
for
weird food
years,
people.
so it was already they had some restrictions on like they knew if we went to the bank and somebody was going to offer them a lollipop, mom was going to say no. Like that was just their life growing up, right? Like if we went to a church thing and there was all this food, we were going to be like, you can have one cookie, you know what I mean? Or you
Mhm.
can like have half of a piece of a pie and that's it. Like we had already put restrictions on them just because we felt like it was good for them, like character building for them,
Right.
Uh, and so they had that, but it was hard, I think, for our teenagers at the time to switch because it was like, well, you just told us like all of this was good and healthy and right. And now you're just flip flopping and saying like, all of that is bad and only the meat is good, And so it was like treading, and they're boys, so they're very strong. I don't know, teenage girls, maybe they're just as strong, Harry. You have teenage girls.
Yeah.
But the boys, you have to be careful with that like man ego there. It was like if it was gonna be mom's thing and what mom was doing, it was gonna be like, I don't know about this.
Right.
But I just kept like sending them different, like Dr. Chafee, like, hey, listen to this. This is interesting and stuff, you know, and just telling them like, okay, well, this is what we're gonna have at home. And if you get something else on your own time, that's on you. But like we're
Mm,
not in the dentist bills. And they knew they were sick. I mean, we were sick I want to go back to that, like every 60 to 90 days, we were perpetually sick and they were knocked out sick, wiped out on the couch. They were so sick of being sick that we were like, we're going to try this and see if it works. The proof's in the pudding. If this is really like going to help us, you know, to just make our immune system stronger, we're going to find out. And so they were kind of all in on that too. Um, but, you know, it was being gracious with them too. And like with the little ones, like, just not buying more of whatever it was or not offering more of whatever it was, like slowly deleting stuff, you know, and we had little crunches that maybe weren't perfect, but they were like crutches, I'm saying, like that we fell back on in the beginning. And I think that was important because the carb addiction is real.
yeah.
We went to dinner last night with a family and they have 4 little girls, and we were like, "We're good. You could just," I mean, she made a roast, you know, it was just
Pot roast.
a pot roast. It was just a roast, just the meat, like no potatoes, carrots, no nothing. It was just meat. That's what she served us. And we were tickled to death, like, that was fine, you know, but her little ones, you know, they were like, getting whiny, getting cryy at the table, and she was like, "Well, I made them some, like, potatoes for this one," and, you know, and then she had to, like, bring out the popcorn at the end because, like, they were crying and fussing. They have little ones, you know, and they were like, "Popcorn," like, they were, like, eating popcorn, you know? It's just like, and I'm thinking, and they had cookies, you know, and it was just like, and they're healthy food. They do like whole
Whole
food. I
Foods, yeah.
think like Trim Healthy Mama is her thing. So it's pretty close. I think it's more low carb-ish. But anyway, but I got to see just last night, like firsthand, how difficult that can be if you have little ones that are addicted to or just used to carbohydrates, and you just go, like, flip a switch and say, "We're just gonna eat meat." That
Yeah,
could be a little difficult
for
transition
sure.
there, you know? So, my thing was in the beginning was just keep the troops happy. So whatever I had to do to make this thing exciting, you know, it was like, we have bacon, like, we have bacon available every single day, or
Nice.
cheese, you know, like,
In the
there
beginning, we did so much bacon.
so much
Yeah.
bacon, so much cheese, all the different kinds of cheese, make cheese crisp. We did pepperoni. We did like, I guess, a more of a dirty carnivore for the kids, you know, where there was lunch meats to roll up. Just encourage the older boys when they were out working, like you can stop and get a hamburger or you could stop and get lunch meat just at the grocery store. Use that as your lunch place and roll up some lunch meat and some cheese and have that, you know, and so they get excited about that. Like our 9-year-old's like, you know, we go to a play group and he's like, we stop at the grocery store and we get cheese and lunch meat for, you know, their play group thing. And he's like, "Can we get cherry ham and mozzarella slice? That's a good combination, mom." And I'm like, okay. So
Nice.
anything, if it's yogurt, I mean, just be creative. We did a lot of we got a little waffle maker and we made, egg waffles, and we would let them put a little honey on it
Yeah, that was
even.
a big thing for a long time
A
too.
big
Yeah,
thing.
the egg
They made
waffles
egg waffles like nobody's
constantly.
business,
Yeah.
like constantly,
Mm,
and you put cinnamon in it, and then it's like French toast waffles, you know, like, it's all in the in the sales, you know?
Presentation.
It's all in the presentation.
right.
Um, yeah, it's just you just gotta be creative with the little ones, and, you know, and then we always told them, "If you're gonna cheat," this wasn't for us because we're older and we had massive issues to figure out, but, like, for them, we would say, "If you're gonna cheat, cheat on fruit." Like, you know, vegetables are pretty much worthless, but, you know, get them some type of fruit at the grocery store or whatever, like, don't, you know, for the older ones, like, if you felt like, "Man, I really want some french fries," or, like, if you were really wanting something, you know, like, don't do that. Just
Right.
just on fruit if you're going to do something. But I don't know how
Yeah,
many times.
and that's the massive thing. I think if you can eliminate the seed oils from your life, I think that is like, that's probably one of the biggest things. If you can just prevent that, because it's in everything, and now it's in ice cream. I mean, it's in absolutely
It's so
everything,
bad.
because they are
Everything, yeah.
just, I mean, the only conclusion you can draw is that whether they knowingly want to poison us or whether they're passively just obliging Satan by poisoning us. I mean, it's why would ice cream have seed oils in it? I mean, ice cream is whole milk and sugar and whatever kind of flavor. There's no reason that there should be like soybean oils and this pressed and processed oil. There's like 6 different kinds in there, and there's no reason for that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Really makes you question things.
Yeah.
Man, I love your advice. It's something you said really kind of struck a chord with me, showing them you said it, TD, the truth. Like, here's the information, here's the versus some people might want to be like, trust me, I did the research, just do this kind of thing. And that's kind of how it happened, not intentionally, if I'm being honest with my kids. I'm just constantly watching Dr. Chafee, Dr. Barry. So some of this is rubbing off, and then they're starting to see some of these stories kind of thing. But I never forced them to do it. And I know, like with teenage girls, they'd have been like, no. Even my one daughter, she's doing really well right now, Alyssa. When I first started, she would do it for a little while and then fall off and do it. And I'd have conversations with her. She's like, well, this isn't fair, Dad, because when you were my age, you got to eat all of this great stuff. And why should I be deprived from it? But when you show them the truth, like, I love the word that you use, the truth, because that's something, kind of a carnivore epiphany I had a while into this. It's like, we've been misled on so many of these things, but when you do the research and you really dig into it, there's just like this shining truth that comes out, and you're like, this makes so much sense now. It's like so clear. The baby step things too, that's a great advice. These
Yeah.
kids, they're like hooked on sugar and carbs from a young age, so kind of transitioning them over.
Yeah, it's really
Definitely
hard.
will help.
And in the beginning, we also had frozen blueberries, and it wasn't for us so much as it was for the little ones. And they would eat blueberries, frozen blueberries, like they had a problem. Like seriously,
They had a blueberry problem.
he would say like, "What in the
Like,
world?"
y'all gotta
Like
stop.
this is getting
What's wrong with you?
crazy with the frozen
Right.
blueberries. I mean, like everywhere, cups there. But you think of coming off of that carbohydrate addiction where you're just used to that, and it does level out. And I mean, we don't have to
Yeah,
have
we
blueberries
don't.
in our house all the time anymore, but it's just they needed certain things to get through, maybe they didn't, maybe I could have just been super hardcore staunch about it, and I would just, but I didn't want to, like, I don't know. I wanted it to still be a positive, good thing. I didn't
Mm.
want it to feel like it was hard for them. Like, I wanted it to still be positive and good. I don't know, my words are limited, but, like, so another thing that we did was we got, like, these keto bars. They were not perfect, but they were like whole food. And, they were like different flavors. And we got boxes, like I got maybe a box or 2 of them every week. And I would give them, what we did like once a week or twice a week
Yeah,
because we got a lot of kids.
it'd be like a
So
reward.
it
Yeah.
was a reward, but it was just like something special. We did Dr. Kiltz's ice cream. I made that a lot in the beginning because, like, hey, you can still have ice cream, and then we learned different ways. Like there are a couple brands and some things that are zero sugar and stuff like that that don't have all the seed oils in it that we can get local. So the kids do that. We just
And what's amazing now is 15 months in, like now when was the last time you bought the bars? Like
oh, I don't know,
months ago.
months ago. Yeah.
Most of these things we don't even, not only that, like in the beginning, I was eating, because we raise beef and pork. And so we always have a freezer pork. We raise coonies, and we just put a pig in the freezer. And I was doing beef and pork. And as I'm going along, when I would eat the pork, I'm like, I don't feel as good. Like I need like the red meat.
Mhm.
And so I basically cut out the pork. And then another thing that I saw happen, and I've always liked my meat medium rare, always. I've never liked overcooked. She liked hers like charcoal briquettes. And
Sounds familiar, my household.
and I kept cooking this stuff like rarer and rarer. And now, I mean, my burgers, I cook them, I brown them on both sides. And sometimes I got to be careful because they're not even hot in the middle, you know? Same
You
thing
know,
with
you know
steak.
what's awesome about this? So much of what you're saying, TD, it's like me, exactly. This is why it's so much fun talking to other people and hearing other people's stories, because we're kind of the loners. Although there's a lot more people doing carnivore now, but everything you're saying is the same for me. Like when I would do pork, it wasn't that I was like sick or anything. I still felt 1,000 times better than the standard American diet. But you can hear your body so much better on carnivore. I'm like, yeah, I eat pork, and I don't feel as optimal. I don't feel as good. So
Yep.
I have gradually, I'm doing lion diet now, but I don't put a label on it really. Like when I was in Alaska filming Bill, I had salmon once, fantastic, but probably 98% of my diet is just beef because I feel better that way. And the same thing you just said, I do that same thing. It's been getting more rare and more rare. And that's what my body wants. And my
Yep.
wife cooks it like a charcoal briquette too. Like if we ever go out to eat, when she's ordering, I'm just like, I can't listen. I can't. She's gonna say the W,
You
well
sat.
done word. One of the things you guys said before I wanted to bring back, because one of the comments I get on my YouTube channel, it drives me insane, is Carrie, you're down 100 pounds since your heaviest. You're no longer depressed. You reversed congestive heart failure. All this stuff's great, but you would have done the exact same thing if you just cut out sugar and junk food. And I did that. And it's from what you were saying earlier, you guys were doing that. You tried everything and you never felt anywhere near as good as you do now. You were still suffering and still had issues. So I think there's a big component in terms of I've said this before on my channel, but I feel like I was deficient in fat. I was scared my whole life. You can't eat fatty meat. I had all of these heart issues throughout the year, so I always avoided it. But I feel like I think that's part of the missing piece of the puzzle. Of course, getting rid of sugar and the standard American processed junk is a huge part of it, but it's not the whole part of it. You guys got rid of it and you were still suffering. I got rid of it. I did like a year where it was pretty much plant-based. I have a little bit of protein, salad for lunch, salad for dinner, cauliflower, riced cauliflower, all the little those things, and I was still suffering. So um, the other thing I wanted to ask you, I guess that wasn't really a question. I think we're on the same page there. What about this comment? How could you guys possibly do this with a family of 8? There's no way I could afford to do carnivore. I get this excuse all the time in my comments where people they're not even going to consider it because it's got to be so incredibly expensive. How do you manage?
Well, there's two hacks, and one isn't necessary, but we raise and buy our own beef. Okay. And so that reduces our cost by buying in bulk. And two, what absolutely happens is you eat so much less. And now that you don't have now you don't have to go to the health food store
Right.
and buy all the healthy chips that are cooked in the seed oils and fried in the seed oils. And you don't have to buy the potato chips that are cooked in the avocado oil and the olive oil. These highly processed, packaged, shrinkflation products that have shrunk, that maybe the prices haven't doubled, but the size of the product has halved, right? So it has essentially doubled. We're no longer buying these items. And it's not only are we not buying these items, I've always been a cheapskate and I've always been like very fiscally psychotic okay, I'll put it this way. When I went to government school, my parents would give me lunch money and I would purposely not eat the school lunch, besides the fact that it was disgusting, but I would pocket the lunch money and I would save it. And that trait carried through to the point where I don't buy these $5 and $6 coffees. I can't tell. I would love to see the statistics on the average American and how much they spend a week in these Starbucks,
Mhm.
uh, Dutch Bros, Seven Brew. Hey, in our town, this coffee phenomenon, right? You got Huey's, you got Dutch Brothers, you got Seven Brew, you got Starbucks, you got Silver Grizzly. We have like 20 coffee franchises, and you're spending a minimum of $5 a pop. You're probably spending between $7 and $8 a pop, and it's getting injected with the high fructose corn syrup.
Mhm.
And I personally know people that will buy 2 coffees a day. 8 that's $16. That
Wow.
is a primo steak. I mean, if you're buying it at the store, it might be a little bit more than that. If you're buying it direct, that is an absolute killer prime rib. And not only are you not ingesting just disgusting whatever, and maybe probably most of these coffee beans have some type of mold and mildew that you're unfamiliar with, and you're ingesting those poisons, but then you're taking that money and putting it into a nutrient dense supplement.
Mhm.
We're not spending hundreds of dollars in supplements anymore because our food is our supplement.
Mhm.
And I mean, we have a family of 8. We have 7 freezers that are stocked with meat, right? And it costs us 3 to 4 thousand bucks to reload, right? And we'll go through a cow in
We usually go
3 months.
yeah, we usually go through about 3 or 4
Yeah, 3 or 4 cows a
cows
year.
a year. I
Mm,
mean, not full on like, you know, cows that might be like commercial beef size cows.
Right, they're
These are
smaller. Yep,
smaller.
yep.
But yeah, but that was a huge turning point. I mean, it simplifies our food so radically. Like our
yeah.
food is radically simplified at this point. It's insane. Like I we hit the year mark and I went into my pantry and just started unloading things out of the pantry just to make room because and I was able to donate tons of food. But it was just like we don't need all of this stuff anymore. And I mean, it hit us within the first 30 days. We had a little vacation plan down to go visit this family in South Texas. And usually when we go on vacation, we'll usually like rent an Airbnb or something. And I have to plan the food because, there's 8 people and they want to eat. And I'm the one that thinks of the food menu. And so I'm like, are you serious? This is like so easy.
We're
So
just going and
we
buying
just,
like
yeah,
pounds
Right.
of
yeah,
beef.
we just go and buy hamburger, eggs, at that time, bacon, buy some creamer for your coffee. Um, they were doing fruit smoothies still then. So I brought my little goofy can of fruit, whatever. But they changed that to a more carnivore. That changed too over time where they got rid of the powder. They just did the berries and they did heavy cream
And raw
and
eggs usually.
ice and some eggs. So it was like a carnivore with berries. I guess Dr. Berry would maybe approve it. Yeah, yeah, Nisha might. So it's like a carnivore smoothie because it was just like, low carb with berries. But they don't need to eat all the time, is the point. Like we
Yes.
can eat 1 or 2 times a day and we're done. We're
Yeah.
full, we're good. And life doesn't revolve around food anymore. And it's funny, like we're getting ready to go visit a family at the end of this week. And she's like, she has a big family and we have a big family. And she's just like, I'm trying to get together with you with the meals and all of that. And I'm like,
Yeah,
seriously?
you don't
Like,
understand.
you could buy us a box of hamburger patties and we're good. Like,
Yeah.
that's what we eat. Like, I know that sounds crazy. And you don't want to like say that to people because they can't even imagine that
Right.
in their mind.
Right.
They're like, you eat a couple hamburgers a day and you're good. Yeah, like we're good.
And another
Yeah.
thing, in the first 30 days, that was a visual indicator. We had a 55-gallon galvanized trash can in our kitchen in one of the closets, and that was our trash can. And people would crack up, we had this enormous trash can, right? And when we went carnivore, that trash can disappeared, And now it's like what, a 2-gallon tote
Yeah, it's
or
just like a
something.
little plastic.
And it's because there's not all that packaging from all the processed stuff,
Yeah.
boxes and
Oh
the
man.
cans and all these different things. And we watch just that visual representation of the simplified diet. And, with all of that packaging and everything comes a reduction in cost. And I mean, it was so visible. So now not only are we not eating all these things, but we're not even creating all this additional waste that's going to the landfill, you know,
Yes.
that's a whole other side of this topic that is so encouraging and just so obvious, which really makes this assault on cow farts and all this stuff offensive, because there is a systematic attack on our food system. They do want to systematically eliminate, basically, in my opinion, the sole food source for humanity. They want to eliminate it. They want to replace it with crickets and all these other
Pea protein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
types of bugs. And at the same time, these products come from these stainless steel warehouse manufacturing plants. The plant food that they want you to eat are these industrial plants, with the
Yes.
big smokestacks that belch out the CO2
Yeah.
and all this stuff.
Man, we could do a whole video on that. That one gets me so fired up. You're so right. It's when people say, "Oh, cows are bad for the environment." And what did you guys just say? You go through 3 cows a year to feed a family of 8. 3
Yeah.
cows. And on the standard American diet, all of those boxes and packages and all of that stuff, it's like you said, it's coming from a facility with smokestacks on it. It's being transported all over the country. It's getting thrown in the garbage. It's complete waste. It's making us sicker. All of that gets a pass, but these cows naturally grazing in a beautiful green field, there's something wrong with that. It's like
Yeah.
back to what we were saying earlier with the truth. You just look at things with your own 2 eyes and some common sense, and you can see kind of what the truth is there. I You're so right too, like on the Starbucks. I am so worried, like the documentary we're doing, I'm really fired up about it because people have these just incredible health issues. But aside from that, this next generation of kids, like my teenage girls, their friends, I see them with the Starbucks and the drinks and they're going to school. It's just mainlining sugar into their system.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to come down really hard where we're like, whoa, like it already is. Like the health of humanity is so poor right now, but for this next generation, I think it's going to be even worse. And oh yeah, what you said earlier, people don't do the honest math. Going to the Starbucks once or twice a day, the sauces, the spices, the desserts, all that stuff in there. I think a lot of people come to this thinking the standard American diet and then translating that to carnivore, like they're going to have to eat
Yeah.
3 meals a day with snacks
You're
in between it, and don't have to pay for these anymore
Yeah.
afterwards. So you have all that money savings. But yeah, when you do the honest math, I'm saving money. Like I'm literally saving money, and I absolutely feel incredible. The weird thing too is, of course, I love a good ribeye, but my main thing, it's like eggs and ground beef or eggs and patties. If I looked at primarily what I've eaten over the last almost 600 days on carnivore, it's ground beef and patties is cheap.
Yeah.
Us
You
Same
too.
know?
same thing for me.
Same.
When we first get our cow, of course, you have all the super awesome steaks, and they're all at the top
Yeah.
of the freezer. So you're like, oh, I'm gonna eat these, right? But like prior to this last cow we got, I mean, we have several, like 300 or 400 pounds of ground beef, and I mean, I ate 2 1-pound burgers a day for at least 120 days.
Yeah.
Like I would come home. I get home between 4 and 5, and at 5 o'clock, I'm gonna have my two. And then what I do is I really like Swiss cheese. So I'll put a couple slices of Swiss cheese on there just to spice it up. And I barely cook them. And it is like, oh, and it was so revolutionary for me because in the back of your head, you're still like, oh, what about E. coli and streptococcus and spongiform mesophil, mad cow and all these things, right? What about all this stuff? And, this stuff happens and everything. And I saw a short from Dr. Chafee, and he was like, the human body can ingest raw beef. What do you think beef tartare is? And I was like, huh, what I've heard that, like, what is beef tartare, right? So I I look it up, And I think I know they serve it in Europe. So beef tartare is ground raw hamburg with a raw egg on top. So,
Mm.
um, I'm like, wow, that when you talk about cognitive dissonance and why I think we're
Well, you're comfortable doing it too because it is our cow from our
yes, of
butcher
course,
shop.
and it's our egg.
So I don't know that you would be so brave
I definitely
if it
no,
was
I would
like
not buy
Walmart
ground beef from Walmart because there is pink slime for any of y'all if you want to look that up or whatever. So I
Right.
wouldn't be as brazen to like
Yeah.
like Walmart beef or anything. But if it's mine after 120 days, and now, since we just got reloaded on steaks, I mean the the steak, I had a prime rib and I'm like, "Oh, I forgot to thaw it out." I'm like, "I'm doing it. I'm gonna like pan sear this thing, right?" So, and it was frozen. So I'm like, "I'm gonna pan sear it on both sides." Well, and I don't like a real thick crust. So I brown it on both sides. I did 3 minutes and I take it out and I go to cut it. It's still frozen in the middle. I'm like, "What the fuck?"
Fine. Don't worry about it.
I'm not quite there yet. So I put it in the pan and I put a lid on it just so that it would thaw the rest of the way. But it was fr- from a normie's perspective, it absolutely was not cooked, but it
Yeah.
was absolutely incredible. I do mine in butter. I use a half a stick of butter, and then once I put it on the plate or the cutting board, I'll pour the butter into a little stainless steel bowl, and that's like my dipping sauce. And I was me and the boys were goofing around, and I was like, "This is lobster. Like this is like carnivore lobster. It's like practically raw beef, and you're dipping it in this incredible butter." And I put a bunch of Redmond salt on it, and I'm like, and you eat it, and you're like, "Yeah, like
That's what
You
it
can feel it,
conquer the mountain," you know.
Yes. Yeah.
right?
So meantime, I'm still cooking my hamburgers all the way through.
Carrie, she super like
I,
abuses this
I
poor beautiful beef. I feel bad
yeah.
inside.
It's
Yeah.
so interesting because that's the same thing. My wife Jen, she's doing really well on carnivore, but every burger, it's got to be well done. Can't be a bit of pink in it.
No, no.
I'm
It's
on whatever works, whatever works.
yeah.
Yeah,
What do
yeah.
you guys have to say about? You touched on this a little bit, but grocery store versus buying local, independent from a farmer.
Now, I am very passionate about this. So we in 2020, lots of things happened and infrastructure collapsed and all these different things. And there was all these problems and there was all these issues. And then there was all this science, right? And then there was all of this medical information and all these different things. And what we found out was maybe you can't trust the science, and maybe what the prominent scientific philosophy when it comes to health and diet, maybe they're wrong, right? And then the other thing is like, well, maybe Walmart or whatever big box store you're currently buying your food from, maybe it won't be there, right? And so we had a herd of Longhorn, and we had really started enjoying the benefits of carnivore, and we have the YouTube channel and we have a local community and we do a local meetup. And I said, "Hey, what if we started selling our own beef direct? What if we started providing this?" And it has been so awesome to the point where now that we're carnivore, we actually sold off our Longhorns and we're now doing like an Angus Hereford cross to up the fat content, because just like you were saying, this fat deficiency is incredibly important. And in the homestead community, you still hear this a lot, like, "Oh, raise rabbits because they're easy and they're fast, but they're incredibly low in fat. And we're we're still people are understanding the power of protein and meat in their diet, but they're not understanding that the fat is the critical component that activates all this stuff, especially when it comes to your brain and your mind and well-being and satiety. I mean, satiety comes from the fat. Satiety does not come from, if I was eating lean ground beef, I'd have to eat 4 or 5 pounds a day. But
Right.
we actually we ask our butcher, "Hey, all the fat you take out, put it in there. Sometimes our burgers are like 60-40.
Mm.
And what's awesome is if you're eating them cooked the way I cook them, is they don't shrink at all. You know what I mean?
Or don't cook them.
Yeah, or don't cook them. And you're getting all this fat, and it's so satisfying. And so, we started selling cows, and how cool is that? We're providing a high quality product direct to our friends and neighbors and our local community. We're keeping that money within our local community. We are uh enforcing and repairing supply chain issues, right? So we are, it's all like, what's the government going to do about that? There's no food at Walmart. What is the president going to do about the fact that there's no food at Walmart? And it's it's so funny. We were in the Northeast when Superstorm Sandy happened, and it just like destroyed and devastated. And there was these people screeching, "We need help. What's the government going to do?" And it's like, and because I experienced that, I'm like, look, the solution to that is to not ask for help from the government, like ask for help from your community. And what 2020 showed us is, with this fragile infrastructure, it is so, not only is it critical for us to provide food for ourselves and for our family, but if we can create abundance and provide it to our community, what if, everybody can't do that? Everybody can't do that. Everybody can't grow cows, and maybe everybody certainly can't grow enough cows for their family. But what if you could grow enough cows for your family? We need 3 or 4 a year. What if we could grow 8 or 10 or 12, right? And if we just provide enough food for 3 families like ours, right? But the abundance, and then what if 10 people did that? Could 10 people do that? And then not only that, as you start to think about this decentralized process and creating this supply chain, and then what if 10 families do that and they provide for 3? So that's 30 families, and then 10, that's 300 families. We would be eliminating supply chain issues. We'd be providing high quality food and health. And then not only that, by the time we sell our 3rd or 4th cow, net, our food is at zero cost to us.
Yeah.
Like, hey, how much does it cost to be a carnivore? Well, it doesn't cost us anything.
Right.
Is that's pretty inexpensive.
Yeah.
Free is incredibly inexpensive. And not only that, we have the joy and the satisfaction of communing with these animals. There's nothing like walking out in a pasture,
Yeah.
and the sun is setting and cows are there chewing their cud, and you just get to experience that. And that's what's more infuriating about cow farts and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Before we were in that position to have our own cows, we are kind of blessed because we are in cow country, beef country. So there's people all around us raising beef. I mean, there's lots of fields and lots of cows, and it's beautiful, by the way. It's not even the cows that eventually might get sold to be finished out on some feedlot for the last 60 days of their life. They still, in the grand scheme, they've had a beautiful, wonderful life on grass up until that last 60 days. So I'm not like trying to glorify the, there's bad practices, of course, but I mean, if the last 60 days is, they're fed out on grain, but 95% of their life, they were out on a beautiful pasture, breathing fresh air on grass. I mean, it's not the worst thing either. So anyway, but I was going to say, we have neighbors that we've always been able to buy beef from. So whether it was just by the pound or a half a cow or whatever, we've always been able to do that. And that's always worked out to be better economically than buying it at the store. But even if it's the same price, just beef. I mean, basically, we've bought whole cows and just ground the whole thing for years. That's what we did because, it's the easiest way to feed a whole lot of people. And so even if you're just buying ground beef, you know, it's not expensive to do. And I
Yeah.
think Kelly Hogan talks about beef patty math, and she talks about, you know, getting all of your protein and your fat and everything and doing it by counting the beef patties. And she's a big proponent of just go to the store and buy a box of frozen beef patties and make it simple for yourself. And, you know, take the frozen beef patty out and cook it in the air fryer, 8 minutes, and you're done. You can, you know, feed yourself. I mean, even if it's Aldi's or whatever, you know, you do what you do where you're at and you
With what
grow
you have.
into
Sure.
things too. It's
Yeah.
not like, oh, I can't do carnivore because I don't know a farmer and, you know, whatever. Like, no, don't do that. Don't let that stop you. That's
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm so lucky because my neighbor's a farmer, and he started selling stuff. They have a farm store now, which is great. But I keep telling people, it was actually when he first started too, it was less expensive than the grocery store. He had
Yeah.
to, it's since it's a closer now to the same cost, but I would be happy to pay more for his meat than the grocery store. Of course, if you could afford it and everything else, because I know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
I know that it's not being injected with a bunch of garbage, like who knows what. I could shake his hand. I see the cows every day. He's a sixth generation farmer. He's absolutely working his butt off for pennies on the dollar while
Yeah.
working a full-time job, completely underappreciated. So I always encourage people, if I live like 3 hours from my neighbor, who I live 10 minutes from, I would drive 3 hours, go once a month, put a bunch of coolers in the back of the truck, stock up, whatever you got to do kind of thing.
right.
I'm going to be doing another video with him because he's amazing. He's incredible. I'm like, there's got to be some sort of program or something we can do to help him out more. He has the land to get many, many more heads of cattle out there. It's just the money and the logistics of doing it. And I told him, I'm like, I would pay up front, knowing that maybe there's a horrific, there's a tornado or something and we lose the cow. I'd be willing to take the risk, pay up front, and then you raise it if that means that you could do more. And I know there's a lot of carnivores watching this right now that would probably do something like that. I think there's some people that do it that way. Like, I don't know if that's a new idea or not, but I'm like, dude, you should do like an adopt a cow thing or something. You take a picture every now and then. Like, I would sign up and I would pay a premium for that, knowing where the meat came from. But
yeah, we have people that buy cows off of us that drive 3 to 4 hours, and that's so humbling. Like, wow. I mean, you pass. And what's fascinating, we are in cow country, and Faith makes an incredibly great point. You know, there's an inordinate amount of misrepresentation with this whole CAFO concept. Now, there are CAFOs, there are concrete CAFOs where they pack in 1,500 head of cows and they corn the junk out of them on concrete, and they're standing in their own feces and all this stuff. And there absolutely are places that do that. And I bet you there are a handful of places that do that.
We don't see any around here.
But
like
we
that.
can drive thousands of miles and we will pass millions of cows.
Yeah.
And they are on grass and they are on hundreds of acres and they're not touching one another. And predominantly here, that's the way cows are grown. And just like she was saying, if the last 60 to 90 days they're on grain, in my opinion, big whoop, you know. And you know, we even started graining, you know, finishing our cows on grain because of the marbleization, different things. And I know there's, with the purist grass-fed people, there's some controversy there, but man, when you appreciate that fat and you, it's really, it is very strange because a lot of people, and even me, even when I was eating medium rare, you cut all the fat off and you throw it in the trash can or you feed it to the pigs or whatever. And now I'm just like, oh boy, like if I'm going to cut this fat off, the only thing I'm doing with it is I might throw it back in the pan in the butter to to make it crunchier and make it a little bit more, have more pizzazz. But I am stinking eating it. And if I got to chew it, you know, it's just like, you know, everybody wants to like take collagen and all this stuff. Like if you chew that gristle and fat and eat it, like you are getting the top line supplement when it comes to like joint health. And most people are throwing it in the trash. Talk about expensive. I mean, they're taking best part of the steak and they're throwing it in the trash.
I've gone to the meat market and there some places they'll give it away for free. It's like, yeah, they want us to trim it all off now. It's so backwards. My neighbor, he it's all grass fed, but he does grain finish just at the very end for a little bit for the same reason you just mentioned. But the cool thing for me is like if I just heard that, I'd be like, I don't know, like what am I supposed to do? But all of the grains that he feeds them, he grows himself. And it's not getting some prepackaged grain that's got a bunch of chemicals or glyphosate or
Yeah.
garbage in it.
Yeah.
So that's another benefit of shaking your farmer's hand and knowing what they're doing kind of thing. And he's a 6th generation farmer. He's so passionate about farming, but he's working a full-time job on top of it, but he's getting really close to where maybe he'll be able to quit that job and
Awesome.
just do the farming. So I'm hoping for that. But this has been awesome, you guys. I really love talking to you. Can you tell us a little bit more about your YouTube channel, what you're doing? We'll have a link in the description for that, or anything else you want to shout out?
Yeah, so we are the Texas Boys, and our YouTube channel was started by our 3 oldest, and now they've kind of grown up and they've started a construction company. And my oldest is building his home next door on our legacy farm. When we decided to live this slower paced lifestyle, we said, hey, if we're going to reinvent our life, like we're going to completely rethink this whole entire process of family and legacy. And what if we could build a legacy in our lifetime while we're alive, accumulate the land, and provide the land to our children where they could start off with dirt and build their own home. And we use a principle called private family banking. What if we could finance it, right? What if we could keep all of our money in house, just like buying that beef from your neighbor? Now, even if you're paying $3 more a pound from your neighbor, you know where your money is, Carrie? Your money's right down your street, right?
Yeah.
Your money doesn't go through Walmart to China or whatever and disappear, right? Your money's right down the street. And what's that doing? Soon here, he's going to be able to ditch his day job and do this full time and buy more cows and offer this high quality product. This is all part, and that he's a 6th generation farmer. All these farmers, we just had a large dairy north of us sell out, and they're putting up thousands of solar panels.
Yeah.
And it's going to be so great. I mean, someday in the near future, we're going to get to eat solar panels, and it's going to be tasty. And I think all of the minerals we'll get. But so our oldest right now is building his home right next door.
Yes.
So some of the videos you'll see on our channel is construction, and we have a podcast called the Fearless Podcast where we like to interview really cool people. We talk a lot about carnivore. We talk a lot about farming, and then we talk about these different political issues that intersect with all of this. And we talk about solutions like John Moody and the Rogue Food Conference, that's going to be here. But we're talking to different people. And it's so funny. I just had a guy on that open source farmer, and we started this conversation, and he was like, well, my wife was having all these issues. So 3 months ago, we went carnivore, and it's like, whoa, dude, this is crazy, And, but yeah, that's the kind of cool stuff we do on the channel. Our channel has changed a lot because we're really busy doing a lot of different things. We do sell local beef. We're going to have 2 steers ready in October. So folks can go on over to thetexasboys.com. And if they want to send us an email or put a deposit on a cow, we do sell cows. I think we're going to have a couple pigs ready soon as well. But yeah, that we would love to have you come over to thetexasboys.com or subscribe to the Fearless Podcast. And we really appreciate our community. We usually have a monthly local meetup where we all meet in real life and talk about carnivore and homesteading and homeschooling and all the things that make life worth living.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. This has been wonderful. It was fun talking to you on the 24-hour live stream, and then we did another live together, and open invite. Would love to do it again sometime.
Yeah, man. We would love it. We always love hanging out and talking to y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Yeah, thank you.